Forged on the gridiron in September. Perfected in the magic of March. For the fans who love the crunch of the pads. Prefer a dunk. And expect nothing but the best. This was the Big Ten. Now this is Bigger Ten. Here's Steve Deace.
Indeed it is. 18 teams in this Bigger Ten. I am Steve Deace. He is Aaron McIntire. We are now in one of the great sports months of the year, Aaron. The college basketball season's underway. We had, I think, two, potential Final Four contenders playing last night. Great game down to the wire between Illinois and Texas Tech in college basketball. Big Ten football, of course, coming down the stretch here. Maybe we've got Indiana and Ohio State heading towards a 1-2, first time ever in the Big Ten championship game kind of clash. Looking at the latest college football playoff rankings, but there's still a few weeks to go. Upsets to come. Almost had a few last week. Came down to the wire. So a ton to get to, brother. You ready to dig in?
You bet. We got to, as we were recording this, breaking Sparty football down bad, man.
All right, I wasn't going to bring it up, but since
Sparty
you
football down bad. Apparently the NCAA is so mad at Michigan, they've decided to punish Sparty. I mean, what did you tell me? Good thing is they didn't have to. They didn't face a
postseason ban.
They didn't face a postseason ban.
Oh my gosh! So for 2 years, man, over the Connor Stallions thing, there has just been massive armies of either real people and/or bots on X. Everywhere you go, if you're a Michigan fan, hammer's coming. Vacated wins. You have to give up your championships. Postseason ban from Sparty and Buckeye fans for 2 years, to the point they even have they get together and root against Michigan together on X. It's just pathetic. Well, today it was announced that because Mel Tucker used several ineligible players, Michigan State has to vacate 14 wins during the 2022 to 2024 seasons. The good news is they didn't beat Michigan any of those seasons, so they don't have to vacate any wins against Michigan either. So there's some good news as well. But to sit there and it's been incessant. I mean, and what you and I do for a living on a daily basis, we have seen some bot armies, right? We have seen what this looks like. It has been obsessive. It has been incessant. Well, now Michigan State will be vacating 14 wins, which is 14 wins more than Michigan has ever had to vacate up until this point. And I'm sorry, but I've been this news broke about an hour ago before we started taping. I've been laughing ever since. I can't get enough of stuff like this. This is Schadenfreude with some pumpkin spice whipped cream on top, brother. So thank you for bringing it up.
Yeah, I just I think violating the spirit of a rule is just in the honor code, maybe not in the letter of the law. I just think that is shady behavior, and I think that what Michigan did was shady behavior, and you've even said it yourself. They didn't need to do that. They didn't need to do the advanced scouting or whatever it's being called, whatever term of art you need to call it. So why did you do it in the first place? Well, it's because you thought it had an advantage that was not meant to be there for other teams. So I didn't get the incessant cultish levels amongst some sectors of different fan bases, Sparty and Ohio State being two of them, that were just obsessive over this story. It is, just from an outside observer perspective, pretty delicious nonetheless. I
mean, guys built social media profiles. I think of, is it Justin Spiro for Michigan State? A couple of these guys for Ohio State on 11 Warriors, I think it was. Their entire social media thing over the last 2 years was just about how Michigan was going to vacate wins and give up the championship, and they claimed to have all these inside sources, and of course none of this came true. And now today, again, a heaping. We're in the spirit of Thanksgiving, brother. You get a heaping bowl of comeuppance and Schadenfreude pie with some pumpkin spice whipped cream on top by vacating 14 wins if you're Michigan State. So I wasn't going to bring it up, but Aaron, since you did, I decided to go ahead and indulge, and I went back for seconds. Let's get to the regular top five if you're good. All right.
Let's do it.
All right, let's start with the maybe Heisman moment of the 2025 season. Fernando Mendoza did not play well most of the game against Penn State. He was scuffling. He was under pressure. But then, just like, that moment he had last year at Cal, I think it was even against their rival Stanford, and he took him 99 yards down the field, and they asked him after the game, what was that like? He's like, 99 yards with my boys. That's what he said. All right. But Mendoza, again, after taking a lot more hits on Saturday against Penn State than he's probably taken all season up until this point, stood tall. Penn State was blitzing. If you watched the end of that game, Aaron, they were blitzing like almost every down.
And those guys were jacked up.
They were not. I mean, that last drive was not a prevent defense. I mean, he is stood in there. He's taking shots. He's throwing the ball up the seam because safeties are coming.
The drive started with a pretty heavy sack.
Yes. Yeah. And he takes him all the way down the field, 91 yards for the winning touchdown. And hey, give Omar Cooper his flowers. That's maybe the catch of the year in college football. That might be your Heisman moment. There's still some big games to come. But the first time ever that Indiana University has won a game at Happy Valley against Penn State. And Mendoza, of course, had maybe the Heisman moment of the season.
Well, that's 3 times this season. That's 3 times where he's found himself in a very similar situation. On the road against Oregon, on the road against Iowa, on the road against Penn State, on the road against Oregon. He threw a pick 6, came back the next drive. I think it was the next drive, touchdown. On the road against Iowa, threw an interception. Iowa should have been leading that game. Very next drive, threw a touchdown pass that ended up being the go-ahead and game-winning touchdown pass. On the road against Penn State, threw an interception that was converted into what should have been probably the game-winning drive for Penn State. Comes right back, throws a touchdown pass in clutch moments. If that doesn't say Heisman, I don't know what does. And I don't know, in this particular moment, I don't know which one I'm more impressed with, the catch I don't know if he was trying to get his feet back in bounds or that's just kind of the way it happened, the way the play unfolded. Both the throw, standing in there, taking a huge hit, and the catch were incredible. I don't care. Again, Penn State, really, really disappointing season. Those guys were playing this. You described it last week as their last stand. They were playing like it as well. They were playing like they were recruited and talented the way that they were billed prior to the season. So really, really, it's all of the superlatives for Fernando Mendoza. And of course, this season, I think we're going to be calling it the Heisman Mendoza, as some have said, and I think that's rightfully so.
So this close to an upset that absolutely would have reset the Big Ten championship tiebreaker, everything else if Indiana loses that game. All right. And then we go to Iowa City, also this close to an upset that would have thrown a lot of the college football playoff rankings into a bit of a tizzy as well. But I thought Tom Fornelli at CBS Sports had a post on X that summed it up. He said, there's been a lot of talk about whether glamour West Coast schools like Oregon are truly ready for the rigors of the Big Ten on a day like this with snow and sleet in the air. Dan Lanning just punted from his opponent's 38-yard line in the first quarter. He's ready. All right. And that was, man, that was some Big Ten football. Oregon down bad. Basically, its entire wide receiver core out in this game. Had to try to run the ball against what is a perennially difficult, tough Iowa defense. Nearly got to 300 yards, then Iowa clamped down, and then they got the 2-minute drive. The kind of game I've seen Iowa win a million times. You let them hang around, they make the big couple plays at the end of the game at home, swing the momentum and pull it out. It looks like they had it. And then Dante Moore, it looked like he had a hammy and stuff early in the game. He got beat up in the game too. Just threw a couple of absolute friggin' dimes, man. Absolute dimes. And Oregon with almost a walk-off field goal. I think there was a kickoff still to come afterwards, but in the final seconds, and they escape Iowa City in kind of your classic November Big Ten game, beating Iowa at their own game. And I know this is weird for a team that just won our championship last year. That might be, for me anyway, the most impressive win I think Oregon's had since they came to our league. Because again, it's just not how teams like that are used to playing. We all know how hard Iowa City is in these kinds of environments, how beat up Oregon was. To go in there, get dragged into that mosh pit against the Hawkeyes, and then find a way to beat them at their own game. Damned impressive win for the Ducks.
I think the Ducks are still kind of hampered perception-wise that they are this West Coast team. That game that they played against Iowa, Dan Lanning, I think he wants to have a team and a culture that is totally down to clown with that. And he's built his roster with that in mind. So I don't really think it's so much of beating Iowa at its own game. This is the game that Oregon is okay with playing. And same could be said for Indiana, but I think Oregon even more so. That was a great college football game. It was just an incredible game.
Yep.
And I do think it was a little bit of a minor miracle that Iowa was even in position to once again, probably should have won that game because they gave up 260 some yards on the ground. But it was, again, Iowa, I think, deserves some credit. They scored more touchdowns than Oregon did in that game. If I told you that Iowa scored more touchdowns than Oregon did, you're thinking, hey, that's probably actually a convincing win for Iowa. So Iowa, I think, again, I think their offensive woes, the really, really bad seasons that they had offensively, I think those are gone. Nobody expected. I texted a buddy of mine. I said, you know what? Got it to the fourth quarter. Let's go see if they can put together a championship drive here, a 93-yard drive. I didn't expect them to do that, but they did. They scored. 93, an Iowa offense putting together a 93-yard go-ahead touchdown drive. That is damned impressive. But the most impressive play all day was the throw that Dante Moore made down the sideline. That's just, frankly, a throw that most NFL quarterbacks don't hit, not in those conditions.
Nope.
And he just put it right on the dot. Coverage was fantastic. I don't know. As an Iowa fan, I'm looking at this. Yeah, that was a kick to the gut. You just got to tip your cap at some points and just say that was, the guy was in position. That's a fantastic throw. What can you do? It is going to be a season of what ifs for Iowa, but for Oregon, that is unqualified, a fantastic win. Just unqualified, meaning you don't have to put any modifiers, any sort of qualifiers before it. It's just a fantastic win for Oregon.
Quick little digression, but it's related to what you were just talking about. Props to the College Football Playoff Committee for keeping Iowa in the top 25. Yeah. If you thought Iowa was a top 25 team last week, losing by 1 point in that kind of a back-and-forth slobber knocker that way, then they should still be a top 25 team. So but it can be the kind of year where you just get reflexive. Well, they got 3 losses, and I don't want any 3-loss teams, blah, 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 blah. Iowa should still be a top 25 team. If you thought they were last week, I have no idea how that game makes you think that they're not this week. All right? Let's talk about Nebraska. Did we just watch a Wally Pipping of Dylan Raiola? So this is TJ Lateef, his freshman replacement, in his first start against UCLA, 13 out of 15 passing, 205 yards, 3 touchdowns, 31 yards rushing. Now, you might say, but Steve, it's just UCLA. Well, look at the second part of this. He is the only true freshman in FBS history in the last 30 years, going back to 1995, to have a game with this kind of stat line with a minimum of 15 attempts.
I told you last week when he came in relief of Raiola against USC, that's a difficult situation for a freshman to be put in. I didn't think he looked that bad. And then you just look at the stats that he's had in mop-up duty. The dude was, even so, mop-up duty against lesser competition, he put up some real numbers in his opportunities. So I thought maybe we would see a little bit more than a typical backup quarterback. And yeah, we certainly did. And UCLA, they've strung together some wins. It's not like they're a helpless team or an unmotivated team. They've, for whatever reason, been able to find and play for pride. So that was an impressive win for Nebraska, going out at night on the West Coast and pretty much dominating UCLA on the back of a freshman quarterback. So whether or not he got Wally pipped, probably not. But I'd say the future is pretty secure for Nebraska at the quarterback position.
Think of the quarterbacks that have started as true freshmen. Matt Stafford, NFL Hall of Famer. Jalen Hurts on his way as an NFL Hall of Famer since 1995. Just guys you can think of that started as true freshmen. All right? None of them in 30 years put up this kind of stat line. Not even playing Alcorn State, Aaron. Not playing Duquesne. Not some, SEC, penultimate weekend of the year when they all play Sanford in the Citadel. And you gotta rest your guy because rivalry weekend's the next weekend. So you put the prize true freshman out there, let him get some run, against a scrub. Not even in a situation against a scrub has a true freshman quarterback put up a stat line like that. That's a yo, man.
Yeah. That was very impressive. Question. So what are we saying? So they've got on the road at Penn State, not this week. I think they're off this week.
Yep.
On the road at Penn State and then home for Iowa. Those are games that Nebraska very much, I think, have the possibility of winning, definitely at Penn State. I don't know where Penn State is at this point, probably mentally gone. At home against Iowa, a team they have not done well against for the better part of the last decade plus now, but I think they will compete with them. They could end the season, 10-2, I think?
Mm-hmm.
What are we saying about the Nebraska program if they go 3-0 to end the season?
No, 9-3. I think
it would be 9-3. Okay,
yeah, 9-3. But still, I mean, that's a better record than they've had in a long time.
Right. Yeah.
At the very least, if that happens, Mr. Lateef is getting paid a hell of a lot of money in the transfer portal in January from somebody. I mean, if that happens, one of these two guys is getting paid a hell of a lot of money in the transfer portal, because you can't keep that guy on the bench if you're Nebraska. You just can't do that. He's going to be way too much in demand across the rest of college football for sure. All right, let's talk about what happened in Madison. And I would not have predicted that this was going to be on the rundown this week, but it was. Wisconsin did something. It's not just that Wisconsin beat Washington, who's been a bit of a scuffling team on the road this year. And again, this is another West Coast team now. They're going out. They're playing in the slop, and in the snow and the sleet. Their best receiver, David Boston's kid, Denzel Boston, gets carted off with a bad ankle injury on a punt return. Their star running back, Jonah Coleman, who's been terrific, maybe the best running back in the Big Ten this year, doesn't play at all in the second half, with a knee. All right, and there's an upset. You figured at some point Wisconsin was going to pick off somebody. Okay, it's not just that. But Aaron, and you should be able to appreciate this as an Iowa fan more than anybody else. They did it with Sean West being the leading passer for the Badgers in their upset against previously ranked Washington. Who is Sean West? Well, Wisconsin's gone through a lot of a lot of quarterbacks this year. Just decided to really dig deep. No, he's the punter. Sean West, redshirt freshman punter, was Wisconsin's leading passer in the upset they had against Washington. Call me crazy. The next game's at Indiana. I don't think this is a repeatable recipe for victory. But dude, as an Iowa fan, I know you guys hate the Badgers. I get it. But you got to have at least a little tip of the cap respect for beating a ranked team at home when the punter is your leading passer as a Hawkeye.
Yeah, 100% completion percentage as well.
Yes.
It's crazy. A 301.6 quarterback rating.
Nice.
That is, I think they found something there. Whatever plays they dialed up for Mr. West here, keep doing that play. Those plays. That was weird. Very weird. Washington fans are very, very upset right now. And I didn't realize this, but I can't remember the stat off the top of my head, but in the first two seasons, their road record is just
it's been terrible under Jed
Fish.
Yeah, it has been.
So Washington fans are very, very upset this week. Got some terrible injuries. You're on the road. Again, all of those factors that you just said, things like that tend to happen. It was a very ugly game, but hats off to Wisconsin for finally getting in the win column. I guess they're really excited to have Fickle back for another season.
Oh, that's right. I should have mentioned that. They did announce he's coming back. You and I talked last week. If you're Michigan State or Wisconsin, you look at where you're at in this coaching carousel pecking order. Do you stay put? And you said they should. Wisconsin agreed. Michigan State hasn't said anything. There's a lot of word that Brian Kelly is interested in that job. He's perfect for that job. Perfect.
Which job?
The Michigan State job. He's perfect for it.
Oh, yeah. That's great.
Michigan State needs a coach who is a perpetual ball of hate. That's when they're at their best. They need that as a coach. Okay. He'd be perfect for that gig. No doubt. All right.
I hate this. I would rather not talk about this.
I know, but this has become a thing now. All right. So earlier this season, the Big Ten let it be known that they are pursuing a venture capital deal with the University of California Pension Fund, or the California University Pension Fund system.
We talked about this last week or the week before.
Was it just so recently? Okay. And basically, it's more complicated than this. But essentially, it is giving, I think it's a 10% stake in the Big Ten to acquire a credit card to pay off your previous debts. Okay? And without question, in terms of brand power, the three biggest brands in our league are Ohio State, Michigan, and USC. And depending on the year and how good they are, depends on the order. Ohio State would be number one right now, for example. 10, 15 years ago when Pete Carroll was at USC, it would have been USC, Now, Ohio State has been for this, and a lot of people are wondering why, strangely, would you want to You go into debt when you don't need the money so that a bunch of programs you're competing with who do need the money have more money to compete against you. It just makes no sense at all. But then I did see an analysis today that Ohio State, the amount of debt they are servicing on their facilities there is pretty extraordinary. Okay. Keep in mind, Columbus is a major city, right? And so it's the biggest television market that has a college program in our league, one of the biggest in the country. So everything in terms of brick and mortar is more expensive there. So I could get that. But USC as a private school and Michigan as a public school, both with huge alumni bases, huge endowments, are dramatically against this. We don't know that all the other Big Ten teams are for it. All we keep hearing in the reporting is that it's several Big Ten teams, but we don't know who the several are. And Tony Petitti are pushing this. So this was stalled by Michigan and USC the last time we talked about it. Now the Big Ten, according to Ross Dellinger at Yahoo Sports, the Big Ten has said, hey, you guys have until November 20th to accept this deal, or we'll just do it without you. And now I have no idea what kind of private equity company wants to invest in the Big Ten without Michigan and USC. All right. And Michigan and USC, I think, are rightly like, well, if we're not a league now and we're a portfolio, Aaron, okay, so we're not a league, we're just a portfolio, and I'm way more valuable than, say, Purdue, but I'm gonna tie my asset up till 2046 with Purdue when no one can sit here and tell me what in the hell the college football sport will even look like in 2 years, let alone in another 20. Why would I invest in that? And so this is heading to some kind of game of chicken here, right? I mean, are Michigan and USC really truly willing to go independent? Is a private equity company really truly willing? It's fascinating, isn't it, by the way, that USC doesn't want to sign on to a private equity deal with the University of California pension system. All right. So this is, I mean, this has universal media condemnation from everybody in the college sports media landscape. All right. So your thoughts on this? What do you think?
You just signed the most lucrative TV rights deal possibly in the history of mankind. And fewer than 2 seasons go by. More. What are we doing? And what nobody's actually outlined, at least not in the reporting that I've seen. Mm-hmm. This is an investment into the Big Ten by the Cal pension system, correct?
Yes.
What does an investment mean? Mm-hmm. You're looking to grow. You're looking to produce a return.
Yeah, a return on investment. Right?
How is that going to work? What does that look like? Nobody's really articulated that I've seen. Like once you get your paws on that, how is that investment going to grow? Are you is it ticket prices? Is it increased TV rights numbers? What is it? A uniform package of helmet sticker, uniform patches, field naming. Nobody's articulated this.
Right.
And it's just, I don't understand. And I don't think really anybody does, at least that I've not seen anyway. I don't understand why this is necessary at this juncture. I just don't understand it. Unless they know something about the future of this sport that we don't know, and they're trying to get out ahead of that, I don't understand it. There are only downsides here. You're pissing off 2 of your biggest brands as we speak. It's not really been articulated how you're going to make money. Eventually, because we're all here because of the fans, they're the ones ultimately footing the bill for almost everything, unless you're a mega booster and you're footing the bill for some crazy good athletes. But by and large, the most lucrative thing are coming from the massive fans. I just don't get it, and I just don't think we're going down it. We're already going down the road that was the bad road. Mm-hmm. This is just another truck stop on that road. So it's just so dumb, and it just smacks of greed. That's the most bothersome part.
The only thing I can think of, Petitti is a TV executive. That's the world he comes from. Okay. And I don't know if you've seen Clay Travis's feed every week. He is pointing out how terrible most weeks. Now, you guys last week gave CBS a great game. with two popular teams, and Oregon is a big brand now too. Okay, and the ratings were great. But like this week's CBS game, Aaron,
yeah,
is Penn State and Michigan State for
winless.
last place.
Yeah,
that's the CBS 3:30 Eastern game on national TV. Okay, the only thing I can think of is that Petiti is convinced that if we don't have some influx of cash with these middle and lower middle class teams in our league, then the next TV deal's value will be diluted, because when you get outside the top few programs in the conference, there's just not a lot of good games to put on TV every week. That's the only thing I can think of. And that would make some sense, except I would argue,
give it some time.
Yeah, exactly. If you can't,
my goodness,
if those teams can't produce a good product with the most lucrative TV deal in the history of college sports, what makes you think giving them more money and accruing more debt would do it? Why wouldn't they just badly spend the new money? Why wouldn't they just, you see what I'm saying, just spend like drunken sailors even more money for a mediocre, bad product and bad coaching if they were already doing it before?
Listen, I don't know over this for certain, but I would imagine, given the TV rights deal that the Big Ten has, that every single member institution can allot the maximum allowed via the House settlement, the maximum allowed towards football. That means that amongst the college football landscape, and I'm sure pretty much every SEC team does as well, but I know for sure that Big 12 not nearly as close to the amount of resources that the Big 10 and SEC have. I know the ACC for sure doesn't have that top to bottom. You are already in the best possible position by and large as a league. Now you just have to give it some time. And if that's the reason why, you've already gotten your incredible turnaround story with Indiana. Yes, Penn State has been a massive disappointment this year. Iowa seems to be turning things around, at least on one side of the ball. You just give it some time to let some of these other teams develop. I don't know what the expectation was going in here. I just don't. Not everybody can have a
sometimes, man, sometimes poop happens. No one would have guessed Luke Fickell would turn out to be what he has been at Wisconsin. No one would have said 2 months ago that James Franklin wouldn't even survive this season. You know, sometimes poop just happens, man. Sometimes it just, no one probably would have said Jonathan Smith would be on the hot seat in year 2 after what he did at Oregon State. All right. Sometimes poop just happens. To overreact to that and say, let me go ahead and go further into debt. You know, you're forcing the larger schools have been fine letting the rest of the conference build off their brands, because the rising tide lifts all boats, right? USC, Michigan, Ohio State need somebody to play. They can't play each other, right? They need a league. Okay. And so that's the trade-off there. They trade their brand in exchange for, being a part of a realm of competition of the like-minded. But if we're going to get rid of all that collegiality now, Aaron, and we're just going to be a commodity, we're just going to be a stake, we're just going to be a portfolio, explain to me what Michigan and USC's incentive is, therefore, to go ahead and into almost perpetuity link their value and portfolio up against lesser portfolios and values without any ability to capitalize at its max capacity. Why would anybody do that with an investment if they don't have to? Why would they do that?
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
I think, but something's going on with Petiti here. And I've seen conflicting reporting as well that he's not reactive to ADs or athletic departments. He is. This has not been on the table. It has been on the table. There's something stinky here with the leadership.
We'll come back. More in a moment. All right, Aaron, let's play some Would You Rather. I'll start. Would you rather bet Mendoza for the Heisman or the field? Now, he's got 2 cupcakes left. You know, and he's going to pile up the stats. You know Cignetti's going to let him do it too. But then you've got guys, like Ty Simpson at Alabama. He's got Oklahoma. He's got Auburn, maybe an SEC championship game, where he could shine in big moments. So is Mendoza such a favorite right now for you that you'd take him over the field?
Yes, I think he's already got the well-deserved narrative behind him, and we're talking about betting. Mm-hmm. So he's already got the built-in narrative. That's very important. And I'm not talking about it. This is not a false narrative. He deserves the narrative that he's gotten for Heisman. And also, again, like you said, 2 cupcakes left. and the Big Ten championship game where he'll have we think a massive audience. I think right now he's a shoo-in. I mean, who else? I guess Jeremiah Love. I think that's the Notre Dame running back. Yep. He's gotten some play as well.
He doesn't have many signature games left. In fact, this week against Pitt is kind of his last one.
Yeah, but I think Fernando Mendoza has got to be the odds-on favorite.
Okay.
All right, this one is for you. Would you rather be on the right side of this bracket or the left side? Basically, we're asking, would you rather be Oregon or Ohio State if the playoffs started today, or would you rather be Indiana trying to make it to the national championship game with the field set the way it is today?
At this point, Oregon has got to ask itself, why do I even try?
Yep.
Okay. Because I think the left side of the bracket is demonstrably harder than the right side of the bracket.
You're telling me I got to meet Ohio State again?
Yes.
Even if I make it past Notre Dame?
I got to go through programs. See, the teams on the left or the teams on the right do not recruit, most of them, other than Texas, they do not recruit at the level that Oregon does. Miami has started to in the last year or two, but they don't have 3 or 4 years of stack classes like this. Oregon is facing recruiting peer institutions, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia, all on its side of the bracket. And remember, Oregon got screwed last year, okay? They had to play Ohio State in the second round as the number 1 seed because of the way the seeding system worked out. So I think the left side of the bracket is demonstrably harder, is what I think.
Agreed.
All
right, this one's from you.
Would you rather bet USC closes with Iowa at Oregon and UCLA, or Michigan closes with at Northwestern, at Maryland, and Ohio State to win out and make the playoff as the Big Ten's 4th team?
Michigan, I just trust their defense more than I do USC. I think USC's defense is going to cost them in one of those games at least. I just think, especially Oregon would probably be the one that I'd be the most concerned about if I were USC. Now, Michigan, Ohio State, that big one is looming. Don't overlook Northwestern, especially playing at Wrigley Field. Hopefully they've got the potholes filled in. I remember Iowa went on the road or went to play Northwestern. I think it was at Wrigley a couple of seasons ago, and the field was just awful. But don't overlook Northwestern. But Ohio State would be the main one. Basically, with USC, I would be concerned about Iowa this weekend a little bit.
Have you seen the weather forecast?
Yes, it's going to be rainy. It never rains in Southern California.
I know. Yes.
At Oregon and then UCLA, you should be able to handle pretty well, but that's 2 out of 3 that I'm a little bit concerned about. With Michigan, it's only 1 out of 3, and I think you've got the better defense if you're Michigan. So I'm gonna bet Michigan in this scenario.
All right.
Finally, for you, would you rather bet Illinois or Maryland over 53.5 points, or Purdue Washington under 53.5 points? Both matchup, both those games this weekend have a total of 53.5 points, and I always like to give you a stupid betting question like this.
I think because of the offenses in Illinois and Maryland, I would rather bet the over. Now, Purdue's offense is not that bad. Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
not as bad as their record.
To betting
anyway.
over on both of these.
I agree. I wouldn't be as I would not. But I'd much rather bet the over 53.5 between Illinois and Maryland because of the potential of both passing games to make some big plays, and then maybe also throw a pick or two in a turnover scenario that kind of adds to that total as well.
Yep. That's it.
All right, we'll come back and we'll wrap things up here in a moment. X-Poll results for this week. Wisconsin fans, Aaron, storming the field for beating 23rd ranked Washington down its top 2 offensive weapons, and with the punter being the leading passer for the Badgers, after Wisconsin's first win over a ranked opponent in 4 years. Approve or disapprove? Does this merit a field storming? 67% of our following said yes, it approves. 33% say disapprove. Did they get it right?
Yeah, I'm in the camp of I think all fans should storm the field after every game, win or lose. So,
you ever been in a field storming?
No, I haven't.
I was when I was an Iowa State beat writer years ago, and when they beat Nebraska at home in 2002, it was the first time they'd done it since the 70s under Earl Bruce, and I was pretty close to 4 bills back then, brother. Okay, and the fans emptied out there at Jack Trice, and for about 1 minute, I think my heart did not beat. I thought I was getting trampled to death. And then after that first minute, I thought this is one of the coolest things I've ever been in my entire life. Yes.
As far as this one goes, was this an ironic field storming? Like, wow, we suck really bad, but we still got a ranked win.
Got to get one of these in every year.
Or were they like legitimately excited about that team?
I think a little bit of both. I mean,
Yeah.
I think a lot of students, the Wisconsin guys in the student section out there with their
Let's just go
shirts
do
off
it,
in the
yeah.
snow. We're all drunk. Let's just go do it anyway,
Yeah.
which I respect that. You bet.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, feedback of the week. And it's in response to our poll. Tyler Hoke says, usually I believe it requires something truly monumental happening for fans to storm the field, but the students and fans of Wisconsin have experienced a complete dismantling of one of the most consistent programs of the last 30 years. I understand why they stormed the field. Now, what I love about this, I think Tyler's a big Hawk fan. And if I'm right about that, I respect the game here, Aaron.
Yeah, if he's an Iowa fan,
Little
then
subversive, passive aggressive dig there that I respect.
Very passive aggressive, very kind of not quite on the nose, whatever the opposite of on the nose is. So.
Kind of your bless your heart kind of a thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I like it. All right. That'll do it for this week's episode of Bigger 10. Don't forget to like, rate, subscribe, share, 5-star review, comment if you're watching here on YouTube or listening over on Apple iTunes or elsewhere. We appreciate that because it also helps us to find more Big Ten fans just like you. You can also find us in between episodes on X at Bigger 10. On X at Bigger 10. For Aaron McIntire, I'm Steve Deace. We'll see you next week.